Well, good morning. The time being 9 a.m, I declare open the special budget meeting for the Gladstone Regional Council for Tuesday, the 21st of July, 2026. First item on the agenda is apologies. All councillors are present, so we have no apologies. And we'll move into the budget overview, which is S1.1, which I'm assuming now, Mark, this is where I say my speech. Thank you, councillors, and good morning, everyone. And thank you to the council employees and the people in the gallery, those watching online, and of course the media. What a fantastic day it is in the Gladstone region today. So thank you for being here. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the lands in the Gladstone region, the Gurrang, the Garangarang, the Baili and the Terrawlang Bunda people. Today I'm very proud to be here alongside my fellow councillors to adopt the Gladstone Regional Council 2026-2027 budget and operational plan, the third of this current council term. This has been a thoughtful and well-considered budget as we recognise the challenging economic environment facing many households and businesses in the Gladstone region. As a council, we are faced with the same cost pressures, including rising costs of construction, maintenance, materials and service delivery. However, we've made a concerted effort to reduce these impacts on our ratepayers. This year's $441 million budget is one that strengthens our community, invests in our future, avoids new debt and delivers where it counts, the services and infrastructure our region relies on every day. This year we're focused on reviewing our spending and identifying efficiencies to minimise the impacts on ratepayers. Responsible managing of our waste services and our environment. Investing in our community facilities and local lifestyle, and growing the region's economy and exploring future opportunities for growth. Residents and visitors to our region will see our roads team out and about more often as they rebuild, repair and maintain our road network. Much of this work is a result of significant rainfall experienced in the region during March, and we've also allocated $65 million for roads, drainage, maintenance activities this year. We have also received $13 million in external funding from disaster recovery funding arrangements from the Australian and Queensland governments to assist with the restoration of various roads throughout the region. As previously mentioned, we've completed a comprehensive review of our spending and identified efficiencies to minimise impacts on ratepayers. Examples of this include moving some of our major events to every 2 years, with Luminous and PopCon to now be held on biennial schedules. This approach will make sure these significant events remain sustainable, high quality, affordable and enjoyable into the future. Our commitment to reduce cost increases for ratepayers is also evidenced in Council's bottom line. We have deliberately kept this year's surplus to just $48,000 to help keep rates, fees and charges as low as possible for ratepayers. Another key decision in this year's budget is the introduction of a land valuation averaging model to calculate rates. This model is good news for ratepayers as it helps smooth the impact of significant land valuation increases by the Queensland Valuer General following updated valuations issued in March for the Gladstone region. Council valuation calculation will use averaging from the previous 3 years of valuations, so ratepayers don't feel the shock of these increases. While the way rates are calculated will vary between properties, this decision to implement a land valuation averaging model demonstrates our commitment to minimising the impact on ratepayers. I'm very happy to say that Council has been able to keep general rate increases to a minimum, with an average residential rate increasing by just 0.47%. So let me say that again. 0.47%. That's less than 0.5% increase to the general rate. This means the average residential property will contribute an additional 17 cents per week to support road maintenance, waste management, parks, community lifestyle, community facilities and investment in our local infrastructure. Commercial and light industrial properties will see a general rate increase of 4.5% and our major industrial properties will see an increase by 7%. As residents of the Gladstone, Boyne Island, Tenham Sands and Calliope communities will be aware, 3 weeks ago we introduced a garden organics curbside bin collection for more than 17,000 residents within those suburbs. In fact, we've already seen significant green waste diverted from the Benarabi landfill in the first 21 days since the service commenced. Continuing this process of converting green waste into reusable products such as mulch saves costs on operating, constructing and maintaining landfills as a result of the waste levy, which is essentially a bin tax introduced by the Queensland Government. This bin tax applies to every tonne of waste received at the Banaraby landfill. So, by diverting green waste away from the landfill, we are ultimately reducing the cost to ratepayers. Council will review the performance of the Go Bin service after 12 months, including consideration for potential service refinements, future expansion opportunities, and opt-out options. This year, the Gladstone Area Water Board has passed on an annual water security charge to all users in the Lake Awonga scheme to fund the ongoing operation and construction costs of the Gladstone or Fitzroy to Gladstone pipeline. This is a charge that Council strongly advocated against and one that we believe our ratepayers should not be burdened with. However, we are very grateful to the Queensland Government who have assisted us with a $10 million subsidy this year to offset the $13.2 million charge. Without this assistance, the water security charge would have been more than $400 for ratepayers with a residential connection in the Lake Awonga scheme. Now it is less than $72 this financial year. While this assistance from the Queensland Government is welcomed, at this stage it is a one-off payment and will continue to advocate for a fair and long-term solution for our local ratepayers. Council's $441 million budget includes a $143 million capital works program, supported by $37.5 million in Queensland and Australian government funding. This further demonstrates Council's effectiveness in seeking funding from other tiers of government and, importantly, not from our local ratepayers. The 2026-2027 capital expenditure of $143 million includes, but not limited to, $36.6 million on upgrades to water and wastewater infrastructure, $30.6 million on capital roads and drainage projects, $23.4 million in sport and recreation projects, $17.6 million on footpath and cycle upgrades, $11.1 million on waste handling and disposal projects, and $3.9 million on bridge replacements and upgrades. Our increased investment in sport and recreation projects includes infrastructure to support the sporting aspirations of young people, particularly ahead of the Brisbane 2032 Olympic Games. These funds will deliver a 50-metre pool at Boyne Island and the design of the Harvey Road Sport and Events Precinct. Additionally, as part of our community investment program, we've also topped up the Gladstone Sports Foundation Trust by $50,000. This trust is separate to Council and was established by the former Gladstone City Mayor Cole Brown in 1987 to assist the region's best athletes to meet the costs of competing at high-level competition. The Trust has supported hundreds of young locals across dozens of sports, including in its nearly 40-year history. And I look forward to seeing this $50,000 contribution assisting our rising stars ahead of the Brisbane Olympics. I'm also happy to announce that Council will continue its ongoing commitment to ease the cost of living pressures for our valued pensioners by increasing our annual pensioner concession. The pensioner concession will increase by $30 from $320 to a maximum of $350 in this budget. Council's pensioner concession rebate is in addition to the Queensland Government, who provide a pensioner subsidy to a maximum of $200. I'm also proud to declare for the 14th consecutive year, and my 11th as Mayor, that we have no new borrowings. This will see interest-bearing debt decline to $67.6 million by June 27, a reduction of $6.7 million. Overall, this budget supports the first operational plan out of Council's new corporate plan, our Vision 2026 to 31, and in a challenging economic environment balances the needs of households, businesses and the broader community with the financial realities facing Council. We remain focused on delivering what matters most for a better every day and making sure the decisions we make grow our region with purpose. This budget reflects our collective vision and the priorities of our community: strong services, local opportunity, and a region we're all proud to call home. Finally, I would like to thank everyone who has contributed to making this budget possible, from our finance team right through to every department in Council, our CEO, our senior executive team, and of course, my fellow councillors. My fellow councillors and I look forward to working together to serve the community in the Gladstone region, the region we're all proud to call home, and I commend this budget to you all. Thank you. Mark, do I need a mover for the Mayor's budget overview? Yes. We do. Tanya, thank you. I'd like to move that. Seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you. Revenue statement is S 1.2. I'll hand over to the General Manager of Finance, Governance and Risk. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This item is... Apologies. This is for your revenue statement. So this revenue statement provides for the collection of your rates and your revenue to fund your budget. So we collect approximately $220 million worth of rates to fund your budget this year. The significant changes that are included within this revenue statement as opposed to previous include your, as you've referred to, your 3-year averaging of your land valuations for the calculations of general rates. There's also some amendments to the application of the rate cap upon the removal of the rate cap when there is a transfer of ownership. There are some changes to the waste charges to reflect the new garden organic service, and there's also some additional rate categories included in there, particularly with respect to bulk water. The other changes are essentially just with respect to clarifications of definitions. But happy to take questions with respect to the report.
Yeah, thank you. Councillor Churchill.
Happy to move the officer's recommendation and congratulate everybody involved. Thank you.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Holzheimer. Would anyone like to speak to this? No, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Motion is carried. S 1.3, long-term financial forecast 26-27. Back to you, Mark.
So this long-term financial forecast is based upon the starting point being your 26-27 financial year budget, but also that includes a number of assumptions that essentially are based on where we believe our expenditure is going to track over that period of time, particularly as we see the transition, particularly with some of that disaster funding and a number of our revenue streams. It does have several years of deficit in those first years 2, 3 and 4, but then we look to track out of that over the 10-year period. So this is has been a thorough review of this document, but essentially is then guides our development for future budgets based on the assumptions included in there, not only for expenditure but also revenue.
Thank you. Any questions to Mark? Mover, please. Thank you, Councillor Cameron. Councillor McClintock. All in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you, Mark. Our debt policy S 1.4.
So this is your debt policy to apply for the, as required to apply for the 26-27 financial year. Even though we don't anticipate borrowing for the financial year, we do need to adopt a debt policy that articulates the principles that we essentially would borrow if we were likely to do that. So there is no borrowing contemplated, but it does, the policy does include essentially our debt profile and where we're looking to trend over the next 10 years.
Thank you. Questions for Mark? A mover, please. Thank you, Councillor Davis and Patrick. All in favour? Motion is carried. S 1.5, projected financial statements for the year end 30 June 27.
These financial statements, including this report, is essentially your budget. So this provides the mechanism in which we control and report on the budget, but also manage our operating and capital budget for essentially the current year, plus the next 2 as required under the Local Government Act. So we work through that, and this is in total alignment with the long-term financial forecast.
Any questions for Mark? No? Mover, please. Councillor Holzheimer, seconded. Thank you, Councillor McClintock. All in favour? Motion's carried. Rate payments, periods and discounts. Mark 1.6.
There's several recommendations with respect to this report that's to separate out essentially not only the types of rates that we're going to apply, but essentially what are the payment periods and the discounts that will apply. So the first part of this report will talk to essentially what are those types of rates that we will be levying for the financial year, and recognising that we will be levying annual rates for essentially our general rate, waste and water availability charge, along with the sewerage and state emergency levy. But then with respect to our water consumption, we'll be doing that biannually. It also talks about the fact that there will be a 60-day payment period for each of those charges. That's the resolution number 1.
Resolution number 1.
There's officer recommendation
so
1.
we need 4 resolutions.
Yes,
yeah, that's correct. Thank you. Can I get a mover for recommendation number 1? Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Seconded. Deputy Mayor. All in favour? Carried. Over to you, Mark, for recommendation number 2.
Obviously, recommendation 2 in this space is with respect to discount. So this recognises that council will afford a 10% discount for if you pay within those 60 days for your general rates, waste, sewage and water availability charges. There's no discount to be applied to the other charges.
Thank you. Move Councillor Wagner, seconded Councillor McClintock. All in favour? It's carried. Recommendation number 3.
Recommendation 3 is in alignment with your revenue statement and outlines the basis on which we will enter into rate instalments for people who need to do that. We do have a number of ratepayers that do enter into rate instalments, so this essentially sets out the basis which we accept that.
Move Councillor Patrick, seconded Councillor Cameron. All in favour? Motion is carried. Recommendation number 4.
And recommendation 4 is the endorsement of the statutory interest rate to apply for overdue rates and charges that are overdue outside of the 365-day payment period.
Any questions? A mover, please. Thank you, Councillor Davis and Councillor Cameron. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you, Mark. We'll move to S1.7, differential general rates.
With respect to differential general rates, this is your head of power for the levy of each of our various rating categories. So we break up according to land use. This separates out what is the minimum general rate, what the rate in the dollar is that will apply to each of those land uses, and whether there's any rate caps that will apply for each of those. So this is in alignment with your revenue statement, but is the level of detail that essentially is then determined and applied to each of the rate notices.
Thank you. Move Councillor Holzheimer, seconded Deputy Mayor. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you. S1.8, waste charges.
So this is your adoption of your waste charges for the year. So importantly, this separates out 2 different charges or 2 separate standard first services depending on which defined area you're in, whether you are in the area that is serviced by the new garden organics green service with the 240 litre bin there, or whether you just are outside of that space and just have the general waste and recyclable service. There is obviously a myriad of different combinations of those services that we allow our ratepayers to enter into, and this provides a header power for the levy of those.
Thank you. Thank you. Move Councillor Cameron, seconded Councillor... Yes, you can. Councillor Holzheimer.
Hi. I was just curious, when we were talking in our budget discussions, we talked a little bit about how to incentivise people to have a smaller red bin. Is that going to be something that comes back to us to make a decision on again later as well? Because we talked about incentivising people a little bit more with making and recycling using their green bin, and actually making that a bigger gap for that as well.
Yeah, so as part of your review, when we review that service, we can bring that back. So at the moment there is a differential charge, but appreciate there is a bigger gap or a bigger opportunity there to create a bigger incentive for that.
And that will happen when we do the 12-month review.
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. All good. Any other questions? I have a mover in Councillor Cameron and Councillor Patrick. All in favour? That is carried. We'll move to 1.9, water charges.
Councillors, this provides the head of power for the levy of our water charges with respect across our various schemes. So we have schemes not only in the Lake Wong area, but also for our townships of Marianvale and Brewarrine and Agnes Water in 1770. So this sets out your head of power for the rating of our access charges for each of those, as well as the consumption rates to apply to those.
Any questions? Councillor McClintock, question?
Yeah, please. Obviously there's a lot of movement around the water rates and charges, specifically around the special charge for security from GORB. Just wanting to get clarity, mostly for our residents, that's only been applied to the GORB, the Lake Wonga scheme, those who are actually receiving water from that, not across the entire region.
Correct. So determined, applied with respect to the Lake Wonga scheme and determined on the basis of the metre size.
So those with a residential connection, the smaller 20 mil, will have less of a fee.
Less of a fee, essentially equates to $71.81 for those.
Yep. And those with a commercial connection, bigger connections, will have a
Depends on the
larger
size
fee.
of the connection, yes.
Wonderful, thank you.
And also the Queensland Government $10 million subsidy has been applied to residential properties and small business properties, not to major industry. So that brings that security charge down to $71.81. Okay, are you happy to move that still? Councillor McClintock, seconded. Councillor Holzheimer? Or was there a question?
No,
No.
I was just.
Excellent. All right. All in favour? Thank you. That is carried. S1.10, water and, sewage and wastewater charges. Mark, thank you.
So council also operates a number of sewage and wastewater schemes. So this encompasses not only the domestic sewage schemes in Gladstone, Boynton and Calliope, as well as Agnes and 1770, but also includes your industrial schemes in the Yarwun and Curtis Island areas as well. So this provides a head of power for the levy of those charges to support those services.
Thank you. Questions? Move on. Councillor Wagner, question or moving?
So this is probably for the residents. We've done a fair bit of work in this area, Mark, in terms of costs and trying to make it fairer across the region. Can you give us some context, or can you explain to the residents essentially where we're heading with that?
So there's a number of moving parts with respect to this. So we do have a price path that we do to try to smooth out the cost of these. So because the reality is our costs of service, particularly in our smaller schemes, are essentially well above the cost that we could reasonably charge our ratepayers. So we do smooth the cost of those. So the costs in the Gladstone scheme have had a CPI approach taken to those. So there's a smaller increase, but there is a larger increase that's been applied to those smaller schemes. With respect to our industrial sewage, they are fully cost recovery and calculated on all costs associated with that. So there's no cross subsidy between our residential rates and our industrial rates there.
Excellent. So essentially what happens is that the scheme where you've got more people on there, a little increase, excuse me, the little increase on that helps buffer and pay for some of the costs on some of those smaller schemes. Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Happy to move that?
Yep.
Thank you. Move Councillor Wagner, seconded. Councillor Patrick. Oh, sorry, Davis. Sorry. You did move seats, you know. All right. Thank you, Councillor Davis. Any further questions? Put the motion. All in favour? That's carried. Special charges S111. Thank you, Mark.
So importantly, we do utilise the provisions of our special charge powers to support particular services to benefit properties. So in this case, they are the three gas plants with respect to the recovery of the capital costs of the Curtis Island wastewater scheme, but also the forecourt at the Gladstone City Plaza, the recovery of those costs over a longer term period to provide that community infrastructure. So this is the recovery of those rates in accordance with those plans.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Move on. Councillor Cameron, seconded. Councillor Churchill, all in favour? That's carried. Thank you, Mark. S1.12.
This provides the head of power for your concessions and exemptions to apply for your 26-27 financial year. This also implies essentially your pensioner remission of $350 per annum for eligible ratepayers. It also then applies dependent on land use, essentially the head of powers for how we apply our rating exemptions. These exemptions are as per your revenue statement and the principles included within that.
Thank you, Mark. Questions, please? Councillor Patrick. You happy to move? Thank you. Move on. Deputy Mayor, would you like to second? All in favour? That is carried. S1.13, fees and charges for 26-27 financial year. Mark.
So your fees and charges are essentially, other than your rating powers, are your other charges. Essentially, we do recover those costs for essentially those user pays fees, fees where people do engage with council's various teams and services. So this provides head of power for the recovery of those. importantly to note that this can be amended any time through the financial year as more services and any change of those services come on board.
Any questions? Can I have a mover, please? Councillor Holzheimer, seconded by Councillor Wagner. All in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you, Mark. The next item is S 1.14, which is the operational plan and budget. I'll let you speak to that, Mark, and then I'll throw to councillors to speak as well.
Sure. So this essentially brings everything together. So this is your final piece to clarify adoption of your budget, and also importantly is our operational plan. So this is, as you say, is the first of our operational plan associated with our 26 to 31 corporate plan. So provides the head of power for working through the number of improvement and initiatives to develop improvements to our business, very much in line with those ambitions that you've outlined in your corporate plan. So this provides the budget, but also provides essentially what are some of those key initiatives that we'll be working on this year to ensure we bring that corporate plan to life.
Thank you. Councillor Wagner, and then I'll throw to Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thank you for that. Sorry, I have got a little bit of a speech here to make, so please bear with me. I think I want to start by saying thank you to the Mayor for opening this up for a conversation. And I also wanted to express my sincere appreciation to my elected colleagues and also for the staff that have really gone beyond to get this budget where it is. There's been some major changes and major decisions done, so thank you to every one of you. So it's been many, many months. This didn't start overnight. It started late last year. And it does go some way to wresting back the impacts of the extreme inflationary environment we're experiencing, as the Mayor said, but largely due to the global events and the pressures outside of our control. These cost pressures cannot be understated. Every council in Australia is experiencing the same fate. So I echo the Mayor's sentiments in this regards to the modest general rates increase achieved in this budget. With that said, I feel it necessary to express some trepidation in stating a surplus budget scenario, albeit the minor $48,000 announced, when we may realistically experience a considerable deficit come year's end due to several legitimate and just circumstances. These circumstances arise due to the unavoidable timing of decisions. The first relates to a pending decision on the future of the Gladstone swimming pool and the divided decision by Council only a fortnight ago to progress the purchase of approximately half of Gladstone Golf Course land, which remains a confidential matter while negotiations and possible purchase arrangements continue. In terms of the pool, there is money allocated in the 26-27 operational budget to conclude investigations into the structural and leakage issues at the Gladstone swimming pool. I believe this sum is expected to cover the cost of a temporary fix as well if investigations find this as an interim option. As our ultimate goal is to have the pool open during the coming swimming season, while Council progresses future plans and have the closure mainly over those closed seasons, depending on how long it goes for. However, this year's capital budget does not include allocated funds towards a new pool or replacement pool this year, which realistically is a likely proposed outcome of the investigations, given the pool is half a century old and the fact we've already done significant work on determining the issues. Cost estimates this far are upwards of $20 million if a renewal is desired, or exponentially higher if a replacement is sought and agreed upon. There is future capital funding earmarked beyond this financial year, obviously at a cost. However, in the event that Council finds a temporary fix unfeasible during investigations, for whatever reason, this may lead to a situation where the pool remains closed. In turn, it is my view that this may result in a desire to commence an early phase of construction within the latter part of this financial year without allocated funds. The implication of a decision to spend outside of what is allocated as operational expenditure will be felt on our expected budget surplus. Now to a more pressing matter, the Gladstone Golf Course purchase. As I mentioned earlier, So much of this information has to remain confidential at this point, but I'm sure Mr Mayor will share the news in due course, and there is some good news. To be clear, this purchase relates to a portion of the Gladstone Golf Course land. The Act enables Council to purchase this land. I understand that we can do this purchase for legitimate council purposes, for good rule and for the good of the community. What I'm not comfortable with, among other things, which I cannot discuss due to the confidential nature of this transaction currently, is that personally I feel I had insufficient information about the development or strategic direction council plans to take with this asset in the long term. The likely long-term cost, opportunities and impacts to council and residents. Having this information would be consistent with our corporate plan objectives to plan for growth, to assess whether this would enable growth that makes sense. These are quotes from our corporate plan. Making evidence-based investment decisions that build confidence and support long-term growth, and build trust and confidence through clear and consistent decisions. Essentially, I don't feel the reports that were available to me support the decision made by Council, and I apologise if I missed something somewhere along the line. This aside, I know this purchase will be a significant cost impost on our operational and capital budgets. Without preempting timing, if this occurs in 26-27, which it may well do, the cost impost will be felt on our bottom line. This can only be borne by capital reserves or borrowings. Either way, the interest lost on current investment or cost of interest on borrowings at the current 5.8% rate will certainly impact on the surplus. Furthermore, operational costs of asset maintenance, especially given the land includes a building of age, are not provided in the 26-27 budget. As I said earlier, I raised these for transparency because any purchase of this nature can only be included in the budget at the time the costs are known. At this stage, they are not finalised, so cannot be included. But the pool and the land purchase are two items in which the costs will significantly impact on Council's forecast budget position, perhaps as early as 26-27. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wagner. Before I throw to Councillor Churchill, I'll just say, and the budget is a snapshot in time, where we are at this point in time. A decision about the pool could happen. We could be up for a $20 million bill, but even if that did happen in this decision was made by the council in this term, it'd be highly unlikely we would spend $20 million by the time you to design and all the rest of it. It is possible. With their decisions we'll have to make in a few months' time when we get a report from council, from our officers about the future use of it. We do have enough funds in the budget to do maintenance, as you said, and hopefully, I agree with you, I'd love to see the pool reopen this summer so we can get people back in the pool, or we'd work out what needs to happen with it once we get a final report. I personally don't see us spending the $20 million or however much it is required to upgrade the pool. We do have an application with the Queensland Government, which is fantastic, and hopefully as part of their Olympics fund. I know our small amount for our Olympics is nothing compared to what they've got going, but if we can tap into some of their funds like we did with the Tenem pool, that reduces the cost to ratepayers. So hopefully that sort of stuff will come to fruition. We'll be able to extend the life for a pool for 12 more months, get funding from the Queensland Government, maybe even from the federal government. Who knows? But we didn't know yesterday that the Agnes skate park was going to catch on fire. And it wasn't accidentally lit, it was deliberately lit. And these are things that will happen throughout the 12 months that we'll have to work through. And that's why we have a very tiny surplus, $48,000. It can disappear in 2 seconds, but we have a 6-month budget review, and if we are heading into a deficit, and if we want to go into a deficit as a team, we can do that. But if we want to keep into a surplus, we'll have to make more changes. It is probably the tightest surplus budget we've ever delivered. We always like to have a reasonable buffer for things like this to happen. But in order to keep the cost down to ratepayers, that's why we've come to the very small budget surplus, which is we've heard right across the state of Queensland from residents, not just in Gladstone, but everywhere, have said, keep your surpluses as small as possible. We can't afford big surpluses. So I agree. There'll be times throughout the next 12 months where we'll have to keep reviewing this budget if we want to stay in surplus. I want to stay in surplus, but that's a decision for the boardroom at the time, but we'll see how we go. Councillor Churchill.
Well, surprisingly, I'll keep mine very short. You've basically taken which is exactly what I was wanting to say. It's a $48,000 surplus, fantastic. great work, well done, and to acknowledge, and you've already done it, to acknowledge the great work that everybody has done to get it to that, but understanding the list that's been listed here of what perhaps might be, because of the uncertainty of what's going on in the world, the critical aspect of making sure that we can remain on track. But, you know, you've covered it, mate. Thank you.
Any further questions, councillors? Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just wanted to, excuse me, I'm losing my voice. I just wanted to thank all the staff. It has been a long process this time, and I think to where we've got to today, I'll never say I'm happy, because I'd only be happy if we didn't have to put the rates and, you know, everything up. But unfortunately, that is just part of the budget. But I wanted to say thank you to my fellow councillors for supporting me with the pensioner uplift, and I just wanted to let the community know that we still will advocate to the state to see if they can uplift their part of that as well. So thank you.
Thank you. I have a few councillors wanting to speak. Councillor McClintock and then Councillor Muscat.
Yeah, thank you. I just, probably to echo a little bit, there's all sorts of different expenditures that we can assume across the next coming 12 months, that we do adopt a level of risk when we adopt any type of future planning. Be that another weather event or a asset failure of any description, we could have all sorts of shifts and movements. So when we adopt a budget with a 48,000, or albeit pretty much a flat end result, it really is a deliberate decision on our behalf to assume a little bit more risk at the advantage of trying to make sure that our residents have the best possible chance to remain economically resilient. And that is one of the challenges that we have, is to create a council that is economically stable and it's financially responsible, but at the same time realising that we have a community that we need to support and try and empower and enable to continue to be economically resilient as well. So I'm really proud of everyone in this room and the way that we had some very robust conversations out the last 9 months or so, and we haven't agreed on every single line that's within this budget by any means. It may appear that way around the table at this point in the journey, but I think there's been a really good quality discussion on every element and every corner, trying to find those little pieces that make this whole story, and to create a result that is as tight as we can willingly adopt that level of risk, knowing full well that things can and will change in the coming years. And who knows, across this year we may get a big grant that shifts us in the other direction. It's really part of the unknowns that we do adopt. And I just want to say thank you to our staff, particularly those who really worked hard through some of the variations across pricing of property valuations. I know there was a lot of tension for residents when they saw their property valuations come out. Obviously, there's bigger explanations we could go into and how that actually works, but the differentiation between different property movements was a real challenge. The smoothing has really been a great step forward, I believe, in making sure that our residents have that economic resilience into the years ahead, setting up a new way that we implement and distribute those rates across the region. So thank you to everybody. Thank you very much to those around the table. Really appreciate the hard work that's gone into this budget.
Thank you, Councillor McClintock. Councillor Muscat.
Thank you, and thanks for allowing us to say something. And I guess, I don't know if this is the right time to say it, but since we all saying something, might as well, right? Yes, I just wanted to maybe give the public a little bit of an understanding of what happened behind closed doors in the last probably 4 months. So while this sounds like really simple and really quick, it's taken a long time for us to come to this result. You might or might not know, but we have got together at least twice over all of these, and in different ways as well. We have got an amazing group of staff, and led by our CEO, Lisa, and again, ourselves, that have put in a lot of time, a lot of discussions, a lot of disagreements. It's not easy to get to a point where 9 people with 800 staff can come to something that we might not all be super happy or 100% happy with, but we can live with, and we can believe and be behind understanding that that's going to be the best result for our community. So apart from that, the fact that we've gone through this budget a few times, we also had the corporate plan to come to. So this is an exercise that only happens every 5 years. So we try to make sure that the budget also aligned with the corporate plan as much as we could while doing it at the same time. We also had the water security prices that came in and through another spanner in the works for us to try to come and move the numbers for not just for us to make sense, but for the public to make sense. And we also, as Councillor McClintock said before, we also redesigned to a certain extent the way we calculate our rates. So again, those ones that live in our offices and they spend hours and hours and hours trying to come up with things that we could agree with and that we could live with and understand, representing our community, that would be something that it was going to be doable. So thank you, obviously, to my colleagues for the disagreements, mostly. But if we don't disagree, then we don't really have anything to do here. So I think we're very lucky in our region to have the staff that we have, so thank you. And also the hard-working councillors and mayor that sit around this table, so thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hossamer.
Just one quick question, Mark, just to clarify. So out of our $441 million budget, only 220 million actually is covered by rate base.
Yeah, that's residential rates.
Residential rates.
Residential rates, right. So your 220 million is your residential rates raised in this financial year. The balance of that fund is funded through cash that we've had on hand, grants that we may receive through the financial year, capital contributions direct from developers, etc. So that's essentially the various makeup of that.
So we go, geez, that's a big number. However, when we actually chunk it down, about half of it is actually something that our residential ratepayers contribute to.
Probably certainly more than that.
Yeah.
So because essentially we are utilising some of our funds that we've got in reserve, so a cash at bank that we've had, that we're now investing in some of those capital programs and bringing them to life.
Yeah, okay, beautiful. I'd like to move the report.
Thank you. Can I just see if there's other councillors who'd like to speak first? Thank you. Councillor Patrick.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm not going to rehash too many points. Eloquently, my fellow councillors have already covered, but I again want to thank councillors, my fellow councillors, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, but really importantly, our general managers and Lisa, our CEO. They worked incredibly hard, and I hope that residents can see how much effort has been put in to ensuring that we have a thriving community going forward. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Councillor Cameron.
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I can't be left out.
Yes.
Let's go last. It's all been said. My sixth budget with this council, and I just can't remember back as much work that's gone into this that has been in the past. We got to a point where we thought, well, we've gone as far as we can do with this, and then we all decided, no, we're just not happy.
Yeah.
So we basically started again. But the thing that I was appreciative of is that all the people that got it, we sent them back to the bench to start again, basically. The speed and the accuracy and the effort they put into it was amazing. So what a great bunch of people we've got working for us to get to the result that we have. As far as some of the opportunities that we have for investment into the future, I think we've placed ourselves very, very well, that we have options, and those options can be very, very rewarding to us into the future. There's an old saying in the development world is what is dear today is cheap tomorrow, and it's an investment in itself, so keep that in mind. But yeah, congratulations to all and to all my colleagues. I think we've done a great job on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. I know Councillor Holzheimer indicated she would like to move the recommendation, but the joy of being the chair is I'm going to move the recommendation. But I'll allow you to second the recommendation. You're welcome. I mean, it's the only one I moved outside of my own budget speech, but it is a budget that I'm very proud of, so I would like to move it as mayor. We have worked extremely hard to get there. As Councillor Cameron said, we had a go, weren't happy. We actually had 3 goes at it. And our staff did have to go back to the drawing board a number of times, so I'm very appreciative of the team, the whole finance revenue team, everyone who's involved. But just, I mean, they come up with a really good budget, and we said, no, you do better, and they did. And then we said, actually, do a little bit better, and they did. This is a $441 million budget, a $143 million capital works program, with just an average general rate increase of 0.47%, and this is well supported by our local industry. We've introduced a land valuation averaging model, which is new for the first time, which supports our banding system and our capping system, which is all options that council have available to us are being used, and we have no new borrowings. This is a fantastic budget, and I'll put the recommendation moved by the Mayor, seconded by Councillor Holzheimer. All in favour? Motion's carried unanimously. Thank you, and I declare the meeting closed.